Hi everyone. In today's video, we'll dive into the mysterious story of the Dark Knight in Darkhill. Join us on this adventure, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share for more exciting tales. In a small village surrounded by a dense, mysterious forest, there was an ancient tradition known as the Dark Knight. Every year, as the night grew colder and the moon disappeared behind thick clouds, the villagers would feel an unusual sense of fear. It was said that something dark and dangerous would rise during this time, threatening their peaceful lives. But for one brave girl, Elara, the Dark Night was not a time to hide but a time to discover the truth behind the mystery. Elara was different from the other villagers. While everyone else was afraid, she was curious and determined to uncover the secret of the Dark Night. This is the story of her journey into the heart of the forest, where she would learn about a powerful force that had protected her village for centuries. The Mystery of Darkhill. In the village of Darkhill, nestled between towering trees and fog-covered mountains, the nights were always quiet and still. But there was one night each year when the darkness seemed to grow deeper, and an eerie silence took over. This night, known as the Dark Night, was feared by all, for no one knew exactly what happened during it. The villagers would lock their doors, shutter their windows, and sit close to their fires, telling stories of strange happenings and terrifying creatures. But Elara was different. As the village prepared for the Dark Night, she felt a strange pull toward the mystery. While everyone else stayed indoors, she decided to find out what the Dark Night really meant. "Stay inside, Elara," her mother said as she wrapped her in a warm cloak. "The Dark Night is dangerous. No one should go out." "But why, Mother?" Elara asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. "What happens on this night?" Her mother sighed and pulled Elara closer. "Some things are better left unknown, my dear." But Elara couldn't ignore the burning question in her heart. There had to be something more to this night, something she had to discover. The Forbidden Path. Despite her mother's warnings, Elara couldn't resist the urge to find the truth. When the village grew quiet and the night settled in, she quietly slipped out of her house, her lantern flickering in the darkness. She knew where she had to go, the old path that led deep into the forest, a path the villagers always avoided on the Dark Night. As she walked, the silence of the forest surrounded her. The moon was hidden behind clouds, making everything seem even darker. But Elara's lantern lit her way, its warm glow offering a small bit of comfort. The deeper she walked into the forest, the more she felt the forest come alive with strange whispers and shadows at the edge of her vision. But Elara was not afraid. She felt like she was meant to be there, to discover something important. Eventually, Elara came across an old, moss-covered stone altar. In the middle of the clearing, it stood alone, ancient and mysterious. As she moved closer, she heard a voice behind her. "You shouldn't be here." Elara turned quickly, startled. An old woman stood in the shadows, her eyes sharp and knowing. "Who are you?" Elara asked, her voice shaking slightly. The woman stepped forward, her presence calming. "I am Selene, the guardian of the secrets of Darkhill." And you, young one, are in great danger. The Guardian's Story. Elara felt a shiver run down her spine, but she stood firm. I want to know the truth, she said. What is the Dark Night? Why does everyone fear it? Selene studied her for a moment and then sighed. Very well. But understand this, knowing the truth comes with a cost. The old woman gestured for Elara to sit, and Elara listened closely as Selene began her story. Long ago, Darkhill was not the peaceful place it is today. It was filled with fear and chaos. The Dark Night marks the anniversary of an important event, a great sacrifice that saved this village. Elara leaned in, eager to hear more. Many years ago, a powerful sorceress named Alicia lived in these woods. She was known for her incredible power to control the elements. One year, as the Dark Night approached, a dark and evil force known as the Shadow threatened to destroy Darkhill. The villagers turned to Alicia for help. Selene's eyes darkened as she spoke of the Shadow. The Shadow was a creature made of pure darkness, feeding on fear and despair. It wanted to bring eternal night to the world. To stop it, Alicia made a terrible choice. She knew that to stop the Shadow, she would have to sacrifice herself. Elara gasped. She gave up her life? Selene nodded. On the Dark Night, Alicia performed a powerful ritual to trap the Shadow and herself within the forest. Her sacrifice saves Darkhill, but every year, the barrier weakens, and the Shadow grows stronger. The fear of the villagers keeps the Shadow at bay, but if the fear fades, the barrier will break, and the Shadow will be free. Elara was moved by Alicia's sacrifice. Can we do something to stop it from happening again? Selene shook her head. The cycle must continue, but you can help. The lantern you carry is no ordinary light. It was a gift from Alicia herself. If you can spread its light throughout the forest, you may strengthen the barrier and weaken the Shadow. The light of hope. Determined, Elara stood up, holding her lantern tightly. I will do it. I will spread the light. Selene gave her a solemn look. Be careful. The forest is filled with the Shadow's creatures, and they will try to stop you. With courage in her heart, Elara ventured deeper into the forest. The path grew darker, but her lantern's light pushed back the shadows. As she walked, strange creatures emerged from the trees, twisted and darkened by the shadow. Their glowing red eyes glared at Elara, but she stood firm, holding the lantern high. Stay away, she shouted, her voice steady. The creatures hissed and shrank back from the light, unable to come any closer. As Elara moved from one part of the forest to another, the lantern's light grew stronger, and the forest seemed to respond, its trees whispering in gratitude. She knew she was making a difference, that she was helping to strengthen the barrier and protect her village. Hours passed, and Elara began to feel tired, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. She thought of the sacrifice Alicia had made and the lives of the villagers depending on her. The final battle. As the first light of dawn began to break through the trees, Elara found herself standing before the stone altar again. The air around her felt heavy, and the shadows seemed to swirl with more power. She knew the shadow was close. Suddenly, the ground shook, and a dark figure appeared before her. The shadow, a swirling mass of black mist and glowing red eyes, towered over her. Its voice was a mix of whispers and growls. "You think you can stop me with your little light?" the shadow hissed. Elara took a deep breath and held the lantern steady. "I carry the light of hope," she said. "And no darkness can defeat hope." The shadow lunged at her, but Elara was ready. She held the lantern high, and its light blazed brighter than ever. The shadow screamed in pain, its form flickering and weakening under the light. "I won't let you win," Elara said, stepping forward. "The people of Darkhill won't live in fear anymore." With one final, powerful move, Elara thrust the lantern toward the shadow. The light exploded in a burst of brilliance, and the shadow was consumed by it. There was a moment of silence, and then the darkness was gone. The shadow was no more. A new dawn. As the sun rose over Darkhill, Elara felt a sense of peace fill the air. The darkness had lifted, and the village was safe once again. She turned to see Selene watching her, a proud smile on her face. "You have done it, Elara," Selene said. "The barrier is strong, and Darkhill is safe." Elara smiled, exhausted but happy. "Thank you for helping me, Selene." Selene nodded. "You did this with your own courage. The light was always inside you." As Elara walked back to the village, the people of Darkhill emerged from their homes, looking up in awe. The dark, fearful night was gone, replaced by the warmth of daylight. They cheered for Elara, the brave girl who had faced the darkness and won. The dark night had passed, and with it, the shadow that had haunted Darkhill for centuries. Thanks to Elara's bravery and the light of hope, the village was free. And as Elara looked toward the rising sun, she knew she would always remember the dark night and how one small light had driven away the darkness forever. Thank you for reading Elara's journey through the dark night. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it with your friends. Your support means a lot and helps bring more adventures like this to life. Stay tuned for more stories of bravery, hope, and the power of light.